Madison Cawthorn has been accused 4 times of bringing weapons into schools across North Carolina.
News 13's Anjali Patel has the latest on the accusations and what his critics say needs to happen.
On February 13th, TSA found a gun in Representative Madison Cawthorn's carry-on bag here at the Asheville Regional Airport. Now, his office says he mistakenly put the gun in the wrong bag, but since then there have been several other accusations of the representative bringing weapons where the law says they don't belong. 4 times in just 4 weeks, U.S. Representative Madison Cawthorn has been accused of bringing a knife onto school property. His office has not yet responded to our request for comment, but the American Muckrakers PAC, which aims to oust the conservative congressman, has been outspoken, calling for investigations into the accusations.
For some reason, Madison Cawthorn thinks he has the right, unlike anybody else, to just bring a knife onto educational property.
So here's what we know about each accusation. The first one came at a Henderson County School Board meeting on September 13th, where Democratic opponent Jay Carey says there was a dagger underneath Cawthorn's seat. The Henderson County Sheriff's Office says they made Cawthorn aware of the rules, and the district's administrative office building has also now been clearly marked as an educational facility that prohibits weapons. The second accusation coming just a day later at a Johnston County School Board meeting. And the third and fourth accusations stem from October 5th. That day, Cawthorn is accused of bringing a knife to Veritas Christian Academy in Fletcher. The Fletcher police chief says based on the information obtained, or lack thereof, they will not be pursuing an investigation. The school's headmaster says none of the staff who interacted with the congressman reported seeing anything that looked like a knife. And that same day, Cawthorn was accused of bringing a knife onto the Western Carolina University campus, where he spoke at a meeting for conservative college group Turning Point USA. The University Police Department reviewed the information and says it was inconclusive. University officials are reminding the student organization, though, that their guests must obey their policies. The American Muckrakers PAC says that's all they want, for the congressman to follow the rules.
Madison Cawthorn, I challenge you to put your knife, like everybody else does, in your glove box before you go into a school, out of the safety of our kids and out of respect for the law.
Now, we have reached out to the chair of the NC11 GOP for comment on this and are waiting to hear back. The chair of the Henderson County GOP has declined to comment at this time.
Disruptions for goods and services are adding up around the country and in our area.
News 13's Rex Hodge looks at the impacts here in the mountains, some of the reasons for the shortages, and the possible solutions.
The supply chain disruption having impacts across the country. Here at the Ace hardware store in Waynesville, trouble getting an ample supply of PVC piping.
PVC material, the construction workers are out here trying to get a job done, we can't get the pipe.
Manager Steve Carver says outdoor items are hard to come by.
Shovels, pitchforks, rakes, that kind of thing has been short. For the recreational side of things, Yeti coolers. It's a big item for us, but we have received maybe 10 hard-sided Yeti coolers all year. So we can't get kerosene heaters, and that most definitely is a supply chain problem.
Carver knows supply ships are stuck in ports, and even if offloaded, getting deliveries is hard.
We're seeing a shortage of truck drivers ourselves, even with the independent haulers that come in.
Western Carolina University economics professor Edward Lopez says we're all seeing how connected our mountains are to the global economy, noticeable by consumers seeing empty shelves.
We also are seeing that on the manufacturing side, where the things that our companies in Western North Carolina produce, they have to hop onto that supply chain, and they're going to get disrupted as well.
Lopez says the pandemic and other issues are factors.
Another factor is policy mistakes, such as supplementing households' incomes when household savings rates are very high, and that has increased the demand, which has put even further strain on the supply chain.
Usually, I would have this full right now.
Steve Speed says supply shortages,
we're having a really hard time finding wire,
are putting up a financial barrier to his fencing business.
How will this disruption to the supply chain impact your business long term?
Well, it's really backlogging us on jobs. I have to drive, 100 miles to get $100 worth of materials to finish one job. It's pretty ridiculous.
Speed looks to Washington for solutions. Professor Lopez says opening ports 24/7 and loosening trade restrictions would help.
Lopez says it will take putting all of these pieces together to...
Developing tonight, police are investigating a hit and run in downtown Asheville. It happened late last night on Sawyer Street.
Take a look at these pictures sent to us by one of the car's owners. Police say 5 parked cars were damaged. Many of them slammed into each other during the crash.
News 13's Kristen Aguirre looks into what happened and how ongoing staffing issues at the Asheville Police Department impacted officers' response.
Because APD is in the beginning of its investigation, there's not many details they can release. But what we do know is that the incident happened here on Sawyer Street, a car damaging 5 cars here on the street. APD says when they arrived on scene, the car door open and the driver gone.
It's not uncommon for us to respond and find abandoned vehicles at the scene of a crash. At that point, we just have to go into investigative mode.
The driver gone, but the damage left behind. These pictures sent in by Lauren Murray. Her car part of the hit and run.
At the time this was occurring, in between the time we received the call and the time our officers arrived was roughly an hour. And in that time, there was approximately 19 to 20 different calls for service going on at any given moment during that time.
APD saying officers arrived on scene as soon as they could.
Our officers, as they became free from other traffic, from the time our first officer was dispatched, they arrived on scene of that crash 7 minutes after they were dispatched. So they were essentially going from call to call to call.
APD Deputy Chief of Operations Mike Yeltlin reminding the public staff shortages make it impossible for them to arrive on every scene.
For incidents that did not involve an immediate threat to life safety, it was highly likely they were going to see extended wait periods. And that is exactly what happened in this case.
Lauren Murray and the owners of the other cars hit on Sawyer Street now waiting for answers.
That's very much the reality. Based on our efforts to triage calls for service so that our officers can respond to more critical incidents first.
APD operating on a 40% below authorized strength, summing up to 65 openings.
This is not a situation that has improved in the past few months. As a matter of fact, it has slightly worsened. And right now and for the foreseeable future, this is the reality that we're going to continue to see.
This investigation now ongoing, and APD says once they get suspect information, they'll release that to the public.